Talking Tottenham, a fantasyfocus.com production.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 173 of Talking Tottenham. Bucky joined by a familiar face yet again, back from Belize. Danny Shakes, how you doing? Before we get to you, thank you, Ty, for stepping in last week. You did a great job. All of our listeners are very grateful for your contributions. Thought it was a good conversation. Danny Shakes, how's Belize?
Belize was fantastic, Bucks. Ty, I thought was really good. I mean, I don't know if I should be worried, but I thought for a first-timer, kind of natural. Maybe also that's a props to you. Like, you're just a really good off-the-ball point guard. You can really just set guys up. So I think I just started the first minute of this podcast paying you a compliment, and I immediately regret that.
Yeah, I'm like 2009 Rajon Rondo.
Very specific, but yes, I see it.
Yeah, he sets others up. He's looking to pass first, shoot second.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. But no, I wasn't in Belize. The whole family had COVID. That was a week plus ago now, and everyone's doing well. So we're all through it, and that's a good thing. The family Shakes is doing well, Bucks. So we're back.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I mean, the way things transpired, you were looking like you could have recorded, and then all of a sudden you just had to hit the red emergency button.
Hey, when you have
I can't do this. I can't do this.
I mean, I felt bad because I was the one. I mean, wife and I both vaccinated, so symptoms super mild, mine non-existent. So I was trying to hold down the fort, look after the children, and yeah, that just meant doing everything, Bucks. So going to bed at 11 o'clock at night after I finish everything, looking after the kids as well as everything around the house.
Well, as always, I have to come up with some sort of scarecrow excuse for you because that's what I do best on this
Belize
show.
Gambling boat. Did I fly to Belize or did I end up in Belize? Like somehow, like I started in Costa Rica, worked my way over there.
Or
I
possibly
started forming a company, and then next thing you know, I'm on a gambling boat.
You became shipwrecked on some random island making a backwoods business deal, and then had to manufacture a raft out of the timber and various FedEx packages scattered all over the island. And then you just ended up on a gambling boat in Belize is how I should have spun it.
Hurricane bearing down on me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy to have you back, Shakes. Again, thank you, Ty, for stepping in last week. Really
well
appreciate
done, Ty.
The conversation. Now get back to work.
Yeah, I won't. Last point to make there. Pretty subtle, but I picked it up. You really wanted to make sure you were the boss there. I got it. Ty works for you. Can't believe you were really.
I never once mentioned that, and I looked at Ty as
you're
a
like,
colleague.
Hey, I called a meeting for Ty to show up, and I had to give the training to him. There was a lot of that going on. We get it. You're the boss, Bucks. You bossed me around.
It was a group of individuals.
You bossed Ty around. Yeah.
I bossed you around pre-game, pre-show, by the way.
Yeah. You just ripped up my agenda in front of me. You didn't have to do it on the video.
Listen, these notes are mine, okay? This agenda, notice I never send you the agenda. I talk you through it and take zero feedback. It's just the way we run it here at TT Pod COYS. All right. We're happy to have Shakes back. I'm sure everybody out there is happy to have Shakes back. But one thing is on my mind, and it's Moussa Sissoko is no longer Spurs. I'm surprisingly not all that down. I tried to record the Leanne Rimes, How Do I Live Without You, kind of, little parody song there. I didn't have the emotion to do it. So if anything, that tells me I was ready for the relationship to end. I just wasn't ready to take that step off the ledge. So I'm glad Moussa stepped in, cut the cord on me. I didn't have to worry about him getting hurt, possibly retiring. No, he cut the cord and he went 50 minutes northwest of Tottenham.
So when you cut the cord, and you know what? This is a fantastic breakup, Buck. Sometimes that works out. You break up, you're still friends. It really works. And although that's probably fewer and further between compared to most breakups, I think 9 points through 3 games helped you. I think watching young Ali Skip just prance around the midfield helped you a little bit. However, did you think you were going to see your ex at the restaurant like 48 hours later when Spurs had to play Watford and he got the start?
No, by no means. I did not think I would have that late night. I'm just going to go out with the boys, let off some steam. You turn with a drink from the bar. Maybe you're chatting up a new gal, and boom, there it is. Just dagger eyes staring right at you. One thing I did not expect is, holy shit, when I saw they had Sissoko in the lineup, this is a guy who barely played all preseason long. And I know he's a consummate professional, but I don't think he was in game shape. Yet he goes out there and gives him, 70 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of immediately felt bad for the Watford supporter because Sissoko's a good player, so he probably would start there, but to just need him that quickly, to turn him around and just stick him in as a holding mid starter. Granted, he does have familiarity with the players out on the other side of the pitch, but I don't know, that seemed like a dire situation, right? Just the fact that they needed him that quick. And I don't know if they pulled chicanery. Didn't feel like Spurs thought he could play, but then it was somehow registered in advance. I can't give the L to the Rat on that. I think the Rat knows all, so maybe he wanted Sissoko to play and wanted the ovation to happen for him when he got called off the pitch and wanted him to make that driving run and set up the pass that never led to the goal, or really back up and take that one-timer and put it into the third level of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So it all worked out, Bucks. That's all I'm going to say. It felt very weird for a hot minute, though, that suddenly he was just being transferred out and playing against us all within 2 days.
I think it was a rat master plan, but I don't think it came from the cigarette smoking room. It came from the Devil's Lettuce smoking room that he retires to around 1 a.m. every night.
He's there right now.
Just getting
time we're recording.
He's getting all those. Oh, now that transfer window's closed.
Oh, he's so how shit faced is the Rat right now? The transfer window closed like 3 hours ago. Him and Hitchen are just drunk as all hell right now.
This is a good transition. We'll get into Spurs winning and being top of the league and Arsenal being bottom of the league in just a minute. But I think that Hitchens and Paratici, the Rat, I think they're drunk all the time. Did you see them on the sidelines?
There's some like best bud vibes going right now, and I know it's because the way they do those stupid quarantine silos or however it works, it's like they're forced to be where they seat them, closer to the team, and then they're around the team a lot because they're in whatever that bubble is. So you just see them a lot more. They're not like sitting way up top with Levy or anything. Do you think it's like Hitchen used to have like a different spot in some box, and now he gets to go out like and just rage with the Rat before the match and then just watch it and just be cursing at the refs all day from like the second row now? He's just living his best life.
I'm fairly confident that Levy had Hitchen in a janitor's closet with a tube TV from 1994. That's how he had to take the matches in.
Like an RCA?
Yeah, the TV that every parent bought for the kids' playroom growing up.
Remember the dog as the logo for the RCA TVs?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a white dog with a black spot on its eyeball.
For sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much like Bill and Ted Awesome Adventure at this point, right? I just don't know if Hitchen is like along for the ride. I've been told they've been buddies forever, but like I don't know if it's like that. Like, were they always like best friends and just like hanging out and raging? I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think also Hitchen's like going home exhausted, like, oh my God, I'm just trying to keep up with this guy and show the same everything that he's showing. But I guess it'll be fun to watch as the season plays out.
It's a good one here for me, and I'd like to think Shakes took a ship while feeling the feds.
Nonsense. COVID.
You have a built-in excuse these days, don't you now, Shakes?
I got a doctor's note and everything.
Yeah. Jerry coming in here, pouring one out for our homie. Definitely poured one out when the news came across. But another win on Sunday. Spurs 1-0, hard fought. The fact that this team is strung together 3 consecutive clean sheets, regardless of competition, you're including Man City, who, by the way, just slapped 5 on Arsenal on the weekend. I'll take it. All right. Considering what we came from, considering the way that Spurs bled out of games in the last 15 minutes over the last year and a half, we're seeing that improvement of the fitness. We're seeing more continuity just in that final third where, well, I guess the first third, the defense Shakes. I'm struggling over here.
Sorry, Bucks. I just got back from Belize, so I didn't know to pick it up then. Yeah, the Spurs defensive third.
Spurs defensive third is just looking miles different. And I know a lot of that is the fact that we are playing with two extremely defensive-minded midfielders in Ollie Skip and Pierre-Emile Oybert. So things have been excellent. Spurs sit top of the table. I'd love to see more goals. But I got to tell you, it's fantastic. It is just fantastic to sit where we sit currently. And I'll be honest, hand up, I did not see this coming a million miles away.
Me neither. Goals definitely they could be a problem going forward, Bucks, and we'll get into the window because really Spurs didn't address that need with a second striker, which I think was the bigger miss there when we talk transfer window. But I mean, the defense just looks more comfortable. The Man City match, there was a couple chances in the second half for City, but really Spurs just kind of saw the game out. Wolves actually probably looked a little bit more threatening because Spurs scored so early with the Dele PK, and then Wolves basically had the next 80 minutes to go after them. This Watford match, I mean, Watford's not a top half of the table team, and I just didn't think, minus that one Sissoko one-timer where he sailed it 50 feet above the crossbar, or that one where he did have that setup to, I think, was it to Sarr? Where Dave had a nice block. I mean, aside from that, I can't think of a time really where they threatened. So it seemed like comfortable victories for Spurs. And then also slightly unlucky. I think Kane probably should have scored, and it was an excellent save. There were a couple other saves that their keeper made that kept them in it. Even though I thought on Son's goal, he made a big mistake there by getting kind of caught in no man's land, took that back step. So then once the ball started whipping in, he just didn't have the strength or the forward momentum to stop it from hitting back corner when he realized nobody was going to put a foot or head on it. So although he made that one glaring mistake, he did keep Watford in it. It's just Watford really couldn't come up with anything. I think they were gassed the final 20, 25 minutes too. They weren't going to do anything. I mean, shit, they had to have been gassed. They were playing Sissoko after getting them like 24 hours ago. So Spurs just won a game they're supposed to win, Bucks. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, you mentioned they got gassed in the last 25, 30 minutes. That's when Spurs were getting gassed just last year. So whatever you're doing, Nuno, behind the scenes with this team in training, we have to keep on making sure that our top priority this season, especially with us now reaching the group stage for the UEFA Bang Energy Conference Cup, we're going to have a lot of games. And I'll be honest, if there's one thing I'm disappointed with outside of our back line, and we'll get to transfers, outside of our back line depth, I feel like depth is a major concern, both in the midfield and on the attacking front. So the depth, with as thin as we are, adding in at least 6 extra games and hopefully more. There's no round of 32 in the Bang Energy Conference League. So it goes directly in a round of 16. I think that's a big benefit for us. That's 2 less games. But it's still, I mean, these are competitive matches. I think we had one of the tougher groups within the Conference League so far, with 2 teams that I actually recognize the names of in Vitesse and in Rennes. So, you know, we're not going to have just a walk in the park. I don't think you can just put the kids out there for those 2 matches and expect to get a result. I mean, those are professional teams. I think they're on everybody's mind in terms of, all right, who's like a mid-table French league team, who's a mid-table Dutch league team. And you got those 2 that sit right there. I know that I try to scour for those 2 teams players within FIFA once I get into like year 3 or 4. So I'm just saying, I'm aware of them. But with all these matches, our team looks a bit thin. I like the depth that we've built on the back line here through the transfer window, but the failure to address a creative midfielder, the failure to address a secondary goal scorer where maybe we can park both Son and Kane in the same match and really not worry about where those goals might come from, that's going to be a big mess. But that's why the conditioning and the fitness of this team, I think, is at the utmost importance. I think if this team can remain well conditioned and have that continuity on the back line throughout these matches, through that death stretch of these matches, I think we're going to see a team that just has a little bit of built-in resolve. Times are good right now. Certainly, they will take a step back at a certain point. I think it's natural. But for right now, I'm riding high, and good Lord, our neighbors in North London from Woolwich, they're certainly not having a good time. I mean, with all the money they spent, how many players for Arsenal right now would be in the Spurs starting 11?
Oh gosh, not many.
Let's start. Goalkeeper.
No.
Not even
Maybe.
Ramsdale?
Is it true they spent the most this transfer window?
They did.
Oh goodness.
They did.
That's rough. That's not the returns I'd want to see if I was an Arsenal supporter. Thank God.
Any
I'm not.
center backs. Any center backs.
Well, they got what's his face, right? For 50 mil. Did they also
Ben White?
Yeah.
Does Ben White start over Eric Dyer or Dave Sanchez?
Oh no, I thought you meant like did they get anyone? No, I don't think he does. Do you?
No.
I don't think Tomiyasu, their new signing, starts.
Now, did you see that YouTube
our new boy
clip?
Emerson? No, you sent it, but I didn't get a chance to click on it.
All right, so there's
post it in the.
I will. There's a Sky Sports clip where one of the journalists who was on this panel talking about transfer deadline, Arsenal makes a move for Tomiyasu, and he receives a text message from Tomiyasu's agent. Tomiyasu's agent essentially says, yeah, I mean, we basically offered him to every club in the Premier League. And the problem with him is, while he's a skilled player, he's not really a right back and he's not really a center back. Well, then where the hell does he play? And how did they get duped for 17 mil? It's almost like the Rat orchestrated this. This is your theory. Give me your Rat conspiracy fake out theory here.
I just think the Rat just had been floating it out there for legitimately months, right? Like this was like before even the Olympics that he was playing in. And maybe he's an okay player, Bucks, but he definitely got left at the altar by Spurs once Emerson became available in Barcelona's troubles. So Spurs went that route, and then suddenly Arsenal was there to pick up the pieces. So I think, yeah, maybe the Rat just kept floating it out there. We're getting close. We're getting close. We're going to sign him. You know, he's already familiar with North London. He's checked out the whole area. And then just that falls apart. Arsenal comes in and it's an easy score for them. And then they get maybe a player that doesn't exactly fit what they need.
Well,
they need a right back. They don't need a right-sided center back, if I guess that's what we're being pitched that this guy is.
So this wasn't just some random observer of Tomiyasu. This is the guy's agent telling this to the media. Like, basically just clowning on
Maybe
Arsenal.
It was a translation thing. It could have been that. Let's not pile on Arsenal.
No, but I would
9
say
points
Saka,
and 12 goals behind Spurs through 3. That has to be
say,
historically a record. Has to be.
I'm
just reporting that now. Fact and research says there's never been a wider gap between the two teams from North London in 3 games.
Well, apparently, first time in history we've been top of the table. Arsenal's been at the bottom.
Oh, great!
It's just mind the gap.
Spurs top, Arsenal bottom.
I would say Saka would start for us. I would also say that
Smith Rowe, maybe
depends
what we're playing.
Definitely depends on that. I also think Odegaard with some more time in seasoning. Time in seasoning. I think he's got a little creative pinch to him that we might be able to use. But aside from that, really, I don't know where the money spent has gone for them. And that's where I think we've really built that up. Men of the match for me against Watford, I had Dave Sanchez. Thought he played one of his better matches for Spurs. He's been crucial on blocks, headers in the box. Everything he's done is turned to gold this season so far. And, you know, testament to maybe getting that Copa America, that seasoning. I keep going back to that term, but he's looking like a different player through 3 matches.
I had Dave also as Dave's your number 1. I had Dave as my number 1 as well.
Yeah.
And then
Tip
behind
the cap to the old fella.
I'd Skip and Sonny. Don't really care the order there, but I just thought Dave played great. And it's just funny. Give him some confidence. I don't know if it came from Copa, you know, playing for the Colombian national team. I don't know if it's not having to sit like 3 yards in front of Hugo. If like under the Jose park the busway and you're playing defense, but you're allowed to pinch up more and use the strengths of Dave far more in this type of setup for Spurs, even though it's defensive, whatever it is, it just suits them better. And we'll see how it goes, Bucks. I mean, there will always be the threat of the Dave gaff, and we got Romero behind him. So at first I thought it was going to be Romero Dyer as Spurs center back pairing kind of, in the big match going forward a couple months from now when the whole team's settled in and transfer windows behind us? Could it possibly be Romero, Dave? Just have Kuti and Sanchez back there?
Possibly, but I think we're a ways away from that. I think the pairing
Don't
is
forget
played
Rodon.
too well.
Rocat.
I think the pairing is played too well.
Yeah, no, it's not changing right now. It's just, what will we see?
I don't know.
Any other thoughts on this match? I mean, it was kind of a, neutral probably found it super boring, I would imagine. Spurs didn't play great the first 30 minutes, but they got the goal, goes into half, and then it just was pretty clear after one chance, I think, Watford had. I mean, they just weren't going to score. And Spurs were just the better team the last 30 minutes, and by far the more conditioned team.
No, there's not really much to break down in this match that was notable. I mean, Hugo played really well at the back. Rest of the team just looked solid, man.
I had a tactical switch up. I think this is the type of game, like you look at this team that Spurs are playing, like a Watford would maybe match up like a Newcastle, a Southampton, a Crystal Palace. Would you drop Bucks one of Skip or Højbjerg, probably Skip, for maybe a Lo Celso, like get a little bit more creativity and forward-looking midfielder in there? I thought Skip did a fine job, and that's why I had him as one of the men of the match. But I just wondered if I had the same thing between Højbjerg and Skip, where I could have gotten another creative person in there with Dele. So like plug in Lo Celso, plug in maybe an Inform and Ndombele for 60 minutes, whatever, something like that.
So I think one thing here that we need to keep on our minds is that for my money, we face two of the most threatening wingers, or at least two of the worst matchup wingers that we will face all season, the last two matches, in Traore and in Sarr. I think they both bring an element of speed and strength and just their skills. They're able to bomb down. They're great with the ball at their feet. I think that was why you saw both Højbjerg and Skip tucking back and really helping out those two fullbacks. I think now that we're past this stretch, I think Crystal Palace will be a great barometer of how we want to set up. With Crystal Palace, I wouldn't hate seeing GLC get inserted there. But I'm also, I don't know, it's like if you play fantasy football here in the States, right? Sometimes you could take that risk when you're drafting, or you could take that risk when you're setting your lineup. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality. I have a hard time getting past that, especially when we're three wins on the bounce. Maybe we see us take that into Crystal Palace, and this is just the setup.
Yeah. Well,
but,
I don't know.
But I wouldn't mind it. And I think the big separator here is peak shape and Ndombele. What does he bring? Is his heart in it? Is he ready to ball?
Better be in it. He's still on the team going into September 1st. And last time I checked, Spurs still pay the man. So time to be a professional, Tanguy. I think I was more looking at it over the grand landscape of it all, Bucks, because yes, Crystal Palace is next after the international break, but it's just, you can't just keep trotting out Skip Højbjerg for 45 games. So it's just figuring out a rotation to maybe plug in the right type of midfield pairing, like to get it more creative in a bottom half of the table type match versus an upper table match. And then also at the same time, giving one of those guys a break, just because you can't expect Skip and Højbjerg just to be the holdings the whole way through. So I think it's
like
that
how
too.
You're already extrapolating this out to the end of the year, Shakes.
You need to,
keep
Bucks.
This tunnel vision, bud.
Well, look at last year. Spurs had a very good start, minus the Everton loss at the beginning. Spurs were top of the table after what, 8-9 matches, and then ran out of gas because Jose is playing the same damn team like during Europa, during Carabao Bang Energy, during FA Cup, all this bullshit, and everyone broke down. And then eventually we're just playing park the bus, sit 10 guys in front of Hugo, and it just looked awful. So I don't want to recreate that. I don't think it will, because I think we're just a better conditioned team. And even though we play defensive, we move our team up a little bit forward. The back line, the front line, everyone's up more forward. And there's more assignments in midfield. But you still just can't wear the guys out. Like you said earlier, we are not a deep team, especially in the front and the middle part of the park.
Yeah, I think naturally as the season progresses, we will get some more changes in there. I think part of the reason we saw the exact same lineup, well, not the exact same, but extremely similar lineup, especially midfield back line, is because of Sarr and Traore over those two matches. Alex, good point here in the comments, thinks that it exposes Dyer and Sanchez with one less defensive midfielder. I agree with your point there. When you have Sarr and Traore running down the wings, going on both sides, kind of being interchangeable do-it-alls, yeah, you're going to have to mix it up now as we get into the season where maybe those threats don't exist. However, I mean, Crystal Palace has their own set of threats, right? So
every team's got good players.
So they do.
It'll just.
But I think Tanganga can muscle Zaha. I think Tanganga is going to get him off kilter.
I think he gets the nod too, Bucks. I know we'll talk transfers in a little bit, but I think he is the starting right back at this moment for that type of game.
I agree.
So don't worry.
My other two men of the match, Højbjerg, I thought he was fantastic.
Viking.
Just an absolute jackal Viking. He's a Viking jackal or a jackal Viking? That's the question.
So he's a jackal that was on a Viking ship that made landfall and just pillaged Watford. Done.
He was a jackal that got adopted as a pet to an entire group of Vikings.
I never got into the Viking show. Was it good? Did you watch it?
Never watched that. No,
Me
I watched
neither.
Black Sails, though. That was pretty cool. Pirate show.
Pirates.
Yeah.
Trying to be like Game of Thrones.
I think I like Pirates more than Vikings.
If I had to be one, I mean, they're very similar. I think I'd be a pirate over a Viking. I like the better weather. So I think I'd rather be in the Caribbean than kind of way up there in the Baltic area or the Nordic region.
And what are you drinking? What are you drinking if you're a Viking? Is it mead? Were they making mead back in Viking days?
So you're more rum over mead?
Yeah,
they're probably doing like wine, like ice wine or something. Like it's yellow grape ice wine. You never had ice wine?
Well, yeah, of course, dude. I like a nice Pinot Gris with some ice cubes in it. Who doesn't?
Yeah, they're probably doing like ports, maybe. I don't know, whatever they pillage.
Something like that.
Whatever they came down to take.
Whale's blood.
Gross.
I'm just saying, I don't know how they get drunk. I'd prefer rum.
I do too. I think rum just easily seals it to be a pirate instead, along with the weather.
You 100% would have an eye patch because you'd be missing an eyeball if you're a pirate.
We already know I'm a pirate because I just was in Belize doing pirate things.
And it wouldn't be because it was at the hands of another man's sword. You would just poke your eye out with your own sword.
It's just my own casualty.
Yeah. That or a bottle of rum. Either way, you would take your own eyeball from pure accident. But everybody, maybe you even did it on purpose. Like you were trying to get pirate street cred.
Maybe. Rough go, pirate lifestyle.
Yeah. Højbjerg looked great. My Viking jackal. And then Sonny, obviously the goal. I just love Sonny. I love when he scores.
Who doesn't?
Terrible decision by that goalkeeper, but at the same time, no. Terrible decision by the goalkeeper. He should have just gotten
we did nothing else well. Yeah. It was a well put on ball, but that was about it. He wasn't expected to go in.
Top of the table. So next week we are doing the Google Maps deep dive, folks, for the Bang Energy Conference League.
Wait, hold on. Are we going to call it Bang Energy Conference League when we have the Bang Energy Carabao Cup? I feel like we're giving Bang too much cred. I think we got to come up with like a different sponsor for the Europa Conference League.
Fine, Rain Energy.
I mean, I like Rain more than Red Line. Yeah, that's fine.
We're Spurs. We don't say Red Line.
Yeah.
We say Rain Energy. Fine. Rain Energy Conference Cup. I'll give you this one, Shakes. I could have derailed you, but I won't.
The red line's between 19 and 20 on the table.
I like this one.
That's where the red line
resides. One from Ian, the Papa John's Europa Conference.
Yeah,
okay. We can work with that, Ian.
It'll be that for now until someone one-ups it. How about that?
Yeah. How about this? Every week, come with your suggestions for the Papa John's Europa Conference League rebrand. Listen, we will sell to the highest bidder. All right. Whoever wants to pay the most advert dollars, we will get you the name.
That feels like somehow the Europa Conference League got in cahoots with like the bowl game and they like packaged it together. So you get the Papa John's Bowl here in the States for the college football game along with the Europa Conference League. Like you sign a 5-year deal with ESPN. Yeah. To have all the Papa John's sports entities. Yeah.
All right, Ian. Great contribution. Folks, if you're not watching us on YouTube, we do, when we record, it's just the exact same thing that you listen to on the podcast. We don't do edits. Shakes and I are consummate professionals. While Shakes drinks his High Nuno, I drink my Miller Lite. We just let it rip. Jerry, here's the deal. We're doing a Google Maps deep dive episode. That'll be probably the latter half of next week's episode since we don't have a match to break down. I will be very prepared for this, and I want it to be interactive. It's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass for our listeners, like pure audio listeners, but I hope that folks out there that listen to this join us on YouTube next week. Follow us on Twitter at TTPodCoys. We're going to be walking through it with a screen share. I'm going to be zooming in on the different architectural things that I like, the different city planning structure.
You need to dry run this, though, so that, there's not a lot of downtime. Like, check the city in advance.
Oh, I'm going to have just tabs with all of it.
Okay, good. I didn't know if it would be you exploring the city for the first time on the live show, which would be funny, but probably not great to listen to.
Nathan, Papa John's, it tastes great on the way down. The problem is as it makes its way further down, at least for me, and that could be a personal problem. But let's just say my days after eating Papa John's are not nearly as productive as the ones that I didn't eat Papa John's the day before.
Same. Nothing else to add.
All right, so let's get into some listener questions here before we finalize this episode with the transfer movements here on the transfer deadline day. First off, we have a great question here from Graham. Shout out Spurs boys. What do you think the key changes and improvements you see in the way Spurs play under Nuno are versus under the former boss? He never mentioned this individual's name. I like that he has coined him the former boss.
He's like Voldemort. He who shall not be named. Yes. You want this one first, bud? Or we kind of touched on this. I think it's just Spurs play higher up the pitch, and it's not so much just the front line. It's also the back line. I mean, they're just not right in front of Hugo's grill. And I think that matters when you're not 6 yards in front of your goal and you have a little bit more space to work with. I mean, otherwise it'd be tense as hell. You trying to clear everything out and stuff coming way down right on you, and just right behind you is the net. I think that's a big deal. And I think also conditioning is to, you got to say that aided the way to play this way because everyone's playing further up the pitch. There's more space in the middle of the park. So there are more demands, I think, on the fullbacks as far as like playing that type of defensive ball, not get everyone get behind you. And it just seems to work right now for Spurs. I mean, the problem is you're going to play a 4-3-3 forever. Does that mean teams figure you out? They know where to attack. They know where to overload. But as of right now, I mean, with Man City playing those three guys up further, making them always a threat on the counter, that was a big deal. And for Wolves, different type game because Spurs got ahead early. Then after that, they were still trying to keep possession, still play a little bit higher, even though Wolves were the one pressing. And that kind of reminded me a little bit more of the Watford game. A little different there, but still, you saw not 10 guys behind the ball. Like, you did not see Spurs just going into this absolute shell, hunkering down against those teams.
I'm also seeing folks give up everything to get in the way of balls, to try to pick off a pass, to tackle a man, take the ball off him. There's just so much effort once things don't, look great for Spurs. The minute so far through the 3 matches, and I'll also include Pashos, who we handily beat there on Thursday to get into the group stages. I just feel like there's urgency, there's commitment, there's love for one another. I love a good brotherhood. I love the fact that it seems like these fellows are meshing. There's something about the effort right now. And when you see that on the defensive back line, you see Skip just throwing his body around, making violent but smart tackles, which could bite us in the ass one day. I think Skip got a yellow card on Sunday. Things aren't always going to be peachy. We will make mistakes. But as long as we go out with that, listen, I'll die for the badge type of mentality on the defensive side, that's really all that I see that looks a bit different. I also see that Dave and Dyer, they're communicating at a different level this year. I don't know if that's just they're more familiar playing next to one another or what, but there's been only one or two moments where I said either one of them is truly out of position.
They just seem to be playing with more confidence, Bucks. And then we also got to give credit to Delhi. No one runs more around in the Prem right now than Dele Ali. And that's a lot different than Spurs playing a 4-2-3-1 where maybe, Delhi's floated up a little bit more. He wants to join the rush still. He wants to get in on the offensive final third, but he puts in a shift right now when he has to hold it back and Spurs are playing a 4-3-3 and he's got the left side. So there's that part too. I mean, and that does speak to the conditioning for the team with all the running that you're seeing Højbjerg, Delhi, and Skip do. But it also just feels like they're different players, Dave and Dyer. It's crazy the confidence they have compared to last year.
I also want to credit how narrow we're playing compared to last season.
Yeah.
I really think that's helped us limit individual mistakes. There's always somebody there that can chase down a man, even if you got beat. And, how many times last year did you see Serge caught in no man's land and he's 3 yards from the touchline, nowhere near the box, gets beat? Where's the fill in? It wasn't there. Delhi wasn't running the way he was running. I think just tightening everything up has brought a lot out. Is it limiting us somewhat on the attack when things aren't going correctly? Absolutely. But I'm not going to complain about it when I do see continuity, pace, effort, tenacity. Just list all the different adjectives you can to describe the play that we've seen. There's just a different mentality right now. And I hope we can continue down this path. I'm not going to sit here and say, I fully expect us to just boat race Crystal Palace. Then we got Chelsea. Then we got that Arsenal team. I'm not expecting us to go out and get 9 more points. However, I'm expecting us to give effort necessary to do so. Whether or not that happens, who knows? We don't hold the cards there. But if they bring that effort, I have full faith that we'll be happy leaving that match.
Yeah. And I see Nathan Keller with the tactical foul point. That's a great point as well. We've had some really on-point tactical fouls when there's either a counterattack coming against us or someone streaking across the center of the pitch, maybe closer to our box. I do like what you said about the narrow approach to Bucks, like the Christmas tree, if you will, look to it where it does force the players out wide on the other squad. And really what that means, though, is you are going to give up something offensively. I mean, Spurs have to have possession for quite some time in the final third on the other end to really get their, or maybe they're just kicking around the back to actually decide to then push their fullbacks up. So the weird thing with that is I feel like Reggie is more offensive minded. He wants to get up there quicker than Tanganga does. It'll be interesting when we start talking transfers if Emerson changes that outlook and how that would look for Spurs, because maybe they'd look to quit playing as narrow if you have Emerson and Reggie in together over a way more defensive-minded Tanganga. But we'll see.
I think it also opens the opportunity for Tanganga to slot in at 3 at the back, Emerson on the right, Reggie on the left, and see what they have.
I got to do more research on Emerson. Has he played as a wing back?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I still think I like back 4, man. If you got 2 defenders that can play well, get that extra midfielder in there.
I'm all
my
for
opinion.
That. I'm all for that. Next question here. We got Ian Ferguson coming in. What is the top thing that you are optimistic about after the opening here to this season?
I mean, I guess we're just going to keep harping on our newfound center back play with the same players. It's crazy. We're keeping all these clean sheets. I guess also the conditioning of the squad seems to be better. We're seeing out these games. But I guess we just got to
give me one thing, Shakes.
Center back play. And then also just the plug and play of Ali Skip. That can't be overlooked. It's just Skip, get in there. What was the stat, Bucks? Spurs haven't lost in 18 matches he's started.
Is that a real stat?
It was 8 or maybe 18 matches he's played in. I think 14 and then 4 draws, I think was what I read. Just plug and play Ali Skip. And then also Dele Alli is a new player too. Sorry, I'm going to keep giving you more.
I'll go with Dele.
Go with Dele.
I'll go with Dele.
I'll go with Skip. You go with Dele, and then we all know our backline's somehow different, even though it's the same effing team.
While his dreadlocks get further and further apart on his scalp every week, he's evolving. That tells me that it's almost like he's turning into his reptile final form, and all of a sudden, it's like shedding. He's just shedding the dreads, and then he's just going to evolve back into 2017 Delhi, 2018 Delhi.
You're gonna lose your mind when he just comes out and he's like Buzz haircut.
I will lose it.
You'll lose it. We'll put so much on Spurs that day.
It's gonna feel like when Rick Vaughn came out in Major League 2 after he was suit Rick Vaughn for a while, you know?
Yeah.
Suit Rick
Corporate.
Vaughn. And he comes out and Randy Quaid just goes, oh my God, it's him. It's the Wild Thing. And then boom, all of a sudden it's the Delhi Sans. He's back. I'm waiting on that final form. He's already got a goal.
Delhi Sans is a pretty sweet podcast title for one of the eps.
It's Delhi.
We'll wait for it when he's really.
We'll wait for the Delhi Sans. Yes,
it's coming against Chelsea. He's gonna kill them like always.
He loves killing Chelsea, man. Give me a 2-banger off them, and we'll call it a Delhi Sans. How about that? But it's been great to see him. I mean, all jokes about. I think his hair is sweet. It is getting further and further apart week over week.
Different colors.
I've never had dreadlocks, so I don't know how the maintenance goes on that. But
me neither. Seems like a lot of upkeep.
Definitely seems like a lot of upkeep. Also seems like it works for Delhi so far. It's been great to see him come around here. I like Dave and Dyer were my number 1. I gave you that shine. Delhi for me is number 2. What is the number 1 thing that you are worried about through 3 matches?
I guess the conditioning looks great right now. I guess I just worry about the constant games. Like what is it if Spurs make it all the way to the final of the Papa John Europa Conference League? It'll be like 16 extra matches or something like that. I read. There may be 14, 16, the extra 2 if they have to go into that stupid like wild card because they didn't win the group stage. So you add those to Carabao, Bang Energy. You add those to the FA Cup sponsor needed. Like it's a lot of games, Bucks, and then you got to really sort out your priorities. I mean, we're just not all Man City out there with just like 3 teams deep, where you can just put all these players out to work and actually you're just gonna have to make decisions as far as like when you're gonna have to limit your personnel. You could see injuries in the front line because you're playing those guys too much. You don't have a secondary striker, even though Son is kind of like a backup striker to Kane. It's still like you wish you had one more striker there because we had Vin last year, and that's goals that we didn't get replaced. That's what I'm concerned about, Bucks. On the all, just the amount of games and how that could where Spurs are more thin.
Right now, it's the front line depth for me. We're an injury away from being in dire straits. No pun intended for one Eric Dyer. I love Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer loves me.
The shit house.
Yeah. The EDP, man. The Eric Dyer project is fully
back. My gosh, I didn't want to bring it up. Yeah, I don't even know where
he is wearing his black turtleneck.
It's like someone made a documentary about him, like The Search for Sugar Man, and then now he's had this like 5th renaissance where now he's like popular again, just after everyone saw the Netflix doc on the Eric Dyer project.
Like he's finally back in a small underground club right now, and it's just word of mouth, but Dyer takes the stage and there's 600 people there.
Right.
Yeah. And he wasn't expecting it, but that's the reality. And that's when he knows he's back, that confidence starts brewing. The frontline depth for me is a major concern. I can't believe we didn't bring in a goal scoring threat. I don't even care if you want to call them a true number 9. I do feel more like, anybody who can put the ball in the back of the net, whether that's 7 goals in a Premier League season, anywhere from 7 to 13, obviously 13 on the very high end of that. God, it just seems like we could have found those goals somewhere. When you see players going for less than 20 million, when you know they're good for 7 goals, that's been a bit of a disappointment. Things could get very, very, very sketchy for Spurs if we get an injury to Son or Kane on the goal scoring front. That's probably the thing that I'm most concerned with right now. We have Mr. Moussa, Silky Low VAR. I love the name change for this week. Would you rather, Danny Shakes, Spurs finish top 4, Spurs finish top 6 and win the FA Cup, bringing the trophy home to Spurs? Spurs finish 7th, but Arsenal finish dead last in the cellar.
So You know what? It's C. It's Spurs finished 7th and Arsenal finished dead last. They get relegated, and then we have basically another year. So you have Arsenal just struggling, and just the riveting competition of them trying to get up past the relegation zone and that not happening. So then they get relegated. Can you imagine that day, the day that they get relegated? Like what that would be like? That would make me forget about everything for Spurs Bucks. And then we get the added bonus of the next year, them in the championship trying to struggle their way to get back up to promotion. I think I would take that for sure over. Yeah, I'd take that over top 6 in FA Cup. I think I would. Maybe Champions League ball would be the more pragmatic decision because then you can bring in better talent. You can, you're going to sign some better players. It makes Kane happy. He'll sign a long-term contract. That's probably the answer. But maybe that tells you the type of person I am.
Well, no, this is everything we need to know about your DNA.
Yeah, right here.
And folks, this is what I deal with on a daily basis. Shakes' whole goal in our text chat is simply to bring me down.
Nonsense.
This is not nonsense. The people need to hear this stuff. I get barraged with pushback on every single thing I say from Shakes. The last time Shakes agreed with me to a group of individuals will be the first time Shakes has agreed with me within a group of individuals. Okay. I'm used to this. I know that this is why I brought him on the show. Couldn't be more different from me. I'm like Don Draper when it comes to Arsenal. I don't think about you at all. I don't think about you at all, even though I talked about them for 6 minutes prior in the podcast. But with this question, I'll take Spurs finish top 4 all day. I don't give a shit what happens.
That's probably the right answer, but
I'd rather Arsenal finish 17th. Just barely.
No,
they draw.
I mean,
they draw.
The day that they got relegated, like that would be just the most epic day. Like whatever happens, like Crystal Palace draws them at the death or something, they get relegated. Whatever the situation would have been, Bucks, that would be like an epic day in all of our lives. Like they spend 170 million.
I like to celebrate
at this transfer window. Their payroll's like 5th or whatever it is, and then they get relegated.
I would rather celebrate Spurs doing something great, and qualifying for Champions League is great. Now, top 6, if that means we finish 4th with an FA Cup victory. But I assume based on the structure of the question, it's do they finish 5th or 6th and get that FA Cup trophy?
What if it's the FA Cup over Arsenal or over like a big time team like Spurs beat Chelsea in like an epic match? I don't know, all 3 are fun outcomes. I like talking about this stuff. They're not all 3 terrible outcomes like we've kind of experienced the last couple of years.
I don't know. I'd feel good for a day if Arsenal gets dropped, but after that, you
have to watch them in the championship. They'll be on ESPN Plus going against Millwall.
We get more coverage
45
of
matches
Arsenal
of that or whatever it would be. Yeah.
We get more coverage of Arsenal than we would Spurs.
All their players would vacate them. It would be like rats leaving a sinking ship. They'd lose that. They get a little parachute money, but suddenly the payroll would go down. They'd have to transfer out all the players. It would be such a disaster.
While we're on the subject, we never spend this much time on them, but it's worthwhile right now because folks are talking. Ian, speaking of docs, the Arsenal one's going to be a dumpster fire. I heard that they already scrapped the first portion of it. They basically have to restructure the deal for Amazon.
Why?
To say
because it was going so poorly.
Like apparently things are completely dismantling over there. You got Dexter in here. Can't wait to watch that club crumble on all or nothing. Listen, they're our rivals. I want them in the Prem. I want to play them twice this season. I want the North London Derby to stay intact. I don't want this to just be a rare cup occasion. I fear that if they were to drop, it would get very, very desperate for them. That's a dog fight, and I don't think they got enough dogs in the kennel.
Me neither. That's a great question. Excellent question.
I've never seen this many comments on one subject in my life. We have to move on. We're talking Spurs here.
It's like Arsenal in a battle against Swansea in the championship on a Friday afternoon.
By the way, the day my allergies stopped going nuts around 8 p.m. every day Maybe you can give me a reprieve one day,
Claritin
Shakes.
Bucks. Let's go.
I take Claritin every day,
and
then
I
take
agree
a
with you on
Benadryl at night.
occasion. I think you just save all your better takes for me live in person, and then all the shit ones are on this group chat that we're in.
I'm a volume shooter.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I'm like
a comedian. I'm like a comedian.
Takes.
I float my jokes. I float my points to my closest friends, knowing I'm going to get shoved into a locker, and then I bring out the best because I've been punched to the ground so much that I have to rise up. There was a question here. Dexter, thank you for bringing this to YouTube. Follow us on YouTube, Talking Tottenham Pod. How do you think Nuno is going to balance the play time of the front three? Example, Mora not starting against Watford after a good first 2 games. It's a great question. I throw it to you first here, Shakes.
It'll definitely be something he's got to really focus on when it comes to balancing a very thin front line. I think with Lucas, because did he start in the Ferreira match, right? So I think that's kind of what led to him not starting against Watford. Yeah, so he started against Ferreira. He played the first 84 minutes. So he got spent there, and you knew he'd come in probably for Steve because you had Kane back in, and Kane was going to be starting. Kane in that match only played, I think, the first 70 minutes or so. So it'll turn into that balancing act, and I think the key here is just how much playing time can Spurs get out of Brian Heel, the Gilster, Gildaddy Flex, when it comes to like Premier League ball. I mean, there's just going to be that moment, though, Bucks, though, where just decisions are going to have to be made because you have the Europa Conference sponsored by Papa John's midweek, and then you have a big match in the Prem 3 days later because it's a Thursday to Sunday turnaround, and it's just going to be quite the balancing act by Nuno. But I think it's going to go like, you know, if he thought some guy came out earlier or someone spent more energy than the other, I think it's going to be more revolving door. I don't think it was always going to be Lucas starts the Europa match, the Europa Conference match. I think it could easily be Steve next time, and then you see Lucas start the Premier League game. So I think it's just going to be like that type of rotation. Son and Kane, they're playing the most important games. Steve and Lucas, they're second in that pecking order, but that might rotate. And then after that, it depends on what we see out of Brian Heel, and then it depends on Sessegnon, and then also if they want to play at times Lo Celso a little bit more forward.
So I think we actually got a pretty good example of why Steve doesn't really work when we have possession on Sunday. I think Steve does so many little things well. Things that a lot of Spurs supporters on Twitter, in a lot of my Spurs conversations, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for. Like, I don't think he played shit on Sunday. The problem was, I do think Lucas, when he came in, was such a bright, impactful player.
For sure. Watford was gassed, though. But I thought
they were
same
gassed.
Thing.
But I think what we'll see here is pretty natural to start things out. If we can bring Heel up to speed, things might change very quickly. And I'm very hopeful they do, because I think there's a player there with Heel. He's just got to toughen up a little bit. Hit the weights, get on the Delhi regiment, go to Dubai for 10 weeks and knock it out. How about that? I'm just kidding. We really need you for all those 10 weeks. But what we're going to see, I think, is pretty natural. Steve is much more effective as that speed counterpunch. So Man City, perfect setup for a guy like Steve. I think Steve offers so much. I think you flank Steve on the opposite side of Son. You have Kane who plays that hold-up role. If we play a similar match to the one we played against Man City, I think that's where Steve sets up brilliantly. So I do think Steve will play a lot more of a Chelsea match, an Arsenal match. Well, a Chelsea match, a Man U match. I think we're going to see Steve playing in those games because I think the setup will be very similar to what we saw against City. And I think on those counterattacks where there will be space, when the other team is threatening, has had possession, gassed a little bit coming back, that's where Steve can really put his clamps on it. Lucas, I think, carries the ball better. Lucas, he's a frustrating player. We saw some head down on Sunday too, but I'll be damned if he doesn't try to carve you. And he'll carve you with possession. He'll carve you. He'll take it off the wing and he'll turn it right back inside and try to make a piercing run. That's a lot more necessary against a setup like Watford's on Sunday than it is against a team like Man City. So I think that's the number one natural progression. From there, I have no fucking clue. Like, that's my only observation so far. Dexter, great question. You're getting a lot of credit in the comments. I just don't know how we handle it. I don't think we have the depth. I think there's a player in Sessegnon, but I don't think he's ready.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just, and the reason I say that is he was playing primarily as a left back for Hoffenheim. So if we have this inkling that he's a winger, well, he's got to get his reps in the Papa Johns.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, add him for depth, and that would do wonders for the team, but it's just trusting him out there. I just think it's just going to depend, Bucks. If there's a hot hand, or if it's just, look, this is how the rotation worked out. Lucas played more midweek, so therefore we're going to put Steve over him. It's just going to have to sort out that way. If things get bad with injuries, that's where I worry, whether it's winger or striker related. I mean, that's where then you will see the Lo Celsos or the Delis have to play more forward. And that's just not what they're going to be used to be doing, but they'll have to figure that part out. I guess I don't hate Lo Celso playing as a winger in this type of game against Watford, especially if Spurs, let's say they didn't score in the first half and it's just they're sitting on possession, they're trying to break through. So there might be a world where maybe you can get one of those guys a rest, like a Lucas or a Steve a rest because you're playing Lo Celso further up. I just think Nuno's going to have to be creative because it's just such a damn long season.
All right, so we have another here from KT. Assuming Tanguy and Gio both stay at Spurs, they are. What do you think the midfield will look like for upcoming matches? We kind of touched on this. I think they naturally get integrated, hopefully sooner rather than later for both. I think they'll both be there. Second question, where does Romero fit in? Given he seems more comfortable playing on the right of the two center backs, does he replace Sanchez? That's the crucial question. I don't know. I think there's going to be a natural rotation here. I think right now it's Dyer and Sanchez, and Romero has to find his way in.
For sure. I think it's Dyer, Sanchez until something bad goes wrong. And, it's a long-ass season. Something's going to happen. And then you see Romero plugged in from there. I don't know if he can only play on the right side. I feel like he could play the left side too. We just happened to see him on the right side in that Europa Conference League match where he was making some moves. Don't rule out a back three either. If just, we have two center backs playing well and you want to add Romero in there, that could happen too, Bucks. It'll be interesting to see, though, how he's integrated. I mean, last year, it's funny. It's like I'm not craving for center back rotations because that's all we got last year. We got like 12 of them. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. Like, we had so many different revolving door center back pairings last year. I'm just going to enjoy just having a solid back two right now because the season's so long. Eventually there will be some changes, whether injury, whether it's poor form, whatever it is, that just happens.
So we got one here from Brian Lozen. Looks like Ndombele is staying. Blessing or curse? For me, It's a blessing. Absolute
Sorry,
blessing.
I answered quick. I just think
you're good.
You need depth at midfield right now, and whether you decide a 4-3-3 and you play him in like a 4-2-3-1, like where maybe Skip and Højbjerg are behind him, or just two more defensive midfielders, you just got to put him in something like that, Bucks, and do that in like the Europa Conference League, because as of right now, I don't trust him in the Prem unless you're bringing him in off the bench because you need a equalizer or score against a team that's given up possession to you. Like it's just, you can't play him against top teams anymore. Sorry. Until he just earns it back, you just can't.
I saw an interesting tweet. I wish I could give credit to whoever posted this. So sorry. I'm kind of stealing the thunder here. But all right, you have Skip. Skip gives you a maximum of 7 out of 10 in terms of an attacking performance, right? Skip, he's not going to give you a 9. He's not going to do something that blows your mind. He's going to be steady. He's going to be passionate. He'll play harder than hell, and he'll make some great plays defensively. But I think the floor is higher for Skip. However, the ceiling is much higher for Ndombele. So if he gets to the point where he's in playing shape, you have a chance at a player putting a 9 out of 10 performance on the board. You also have a chance at a player putting a 3.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't trust them, period, for anything higher in the table. Even Europa Conference, I'd want the security blanket of like Højbjerg or Skip next to him. I don't think you could play him with Dele too, because Dele likes to get forward. So then if Dele's getting forward, do you trust Ndombele like filling the position and doing the right thing defensively? There's just so much trust that he needs to rebuild with Nuno. Maybe just was never even existed, but he needs to rebuild with the fans. It's just specific situations, Bucks. It's Spurs are going to have the possession. They're playing, Rennes or something, and you just know that you can get away with having him in there. Or really, maybe even this Watford game. It's like play him instead of one of Skip and Højbjerg, start him there. You're only going to get 55, 60 minutes out of him. Hopefully he helps contribute to a goal because he's more creative out there and didn't cost you defensively because he actually ran around and worked hard, defensively when he needed to. And then you get him out of there for a more defensive midfielder to shore up the rest of the game. It's like right now, I can only think of specific scenarios only to get him involved, which sucks.
It's a good point, but I think it's still a blessing. I'd rather have a young, talented.
I'm not giving away for nothing or half off.
You ain't getting it half off in Danny Shakes is in the
No
Rat's
way.
house. Rat will smoke you out.
Run that asset into the ground. I will say silver lining is now no one came for him. Hopefully it's a wake-up call. Like, hey, bro, like no one wanted to put in that kind of offer for you. So no one thinks you're this type of player. Time to work your ass off, do something. If you want to get out of here, you got to show it with your play. Or maybe you'll like working with the team again. Who knows? It just sucks that he's got to be coddled by every manager that walks in. It's old, Bucks.
Yeah, it does get old. I mean, but every individual is different. And when you're a talented individual, you get treated a bit differently. And maybe his own expectations for himself don't match that of the folks that are administering the club, right?
Well, reality check. I mean, you just got to work harder, and you got to, like, if you can get, if Skip and Højbjerg are that much more in condition than you are and hit all the defensive assignments, they're better players than you. Just because you have more talent doesn't mean you're better than them.
That's a good point. All right, so last question. It's a great transition. Alex Asher here. Another Ndombele related question, but now that his apparent two closest friends, Serge and Sissoko, are gone, do you see this being a positive or negative for his Spurs career? Positive from less distractions, negative from desire to leave now. Fascinating subplot. No, you're a professional. If he needs a friend, hit me up. I'm on Twitter, TTPodCoys. We could DM, we could FaceTime. We could play words with friends. For real, I can be your friend, Tangy. Okay, you can meet friends. It's not difficult.
You have a lot of money. You'd be the rich friend.
You
a lot of clubs you get into.
Friend.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I'm not a club guy anymore.
Me neither.
Never really was. But I think even at this point, if I were in Vegas, I would turn down the club night. I'd rather be on the tables.
100% agree. I mean, you always get roped into the club and it's like sold to you like, oh, we got this space, this bottles, all, it'll be fun. And then you get there and I think, I don't know, for me, like 45 minutes go by and I'm just over it. I just want to go play blackjack and craps.
Speaking of the rats, you get those bottle rats coming around.
I mean, you can play
the
tables.
The bottle rats, they're just nibbling on the cheese. That is your liquor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Drinks are expensive out there, Buck.
Listen, it is a fascinating subplot because it seems like it's important to Tangy, but grow up.
I've
had friends leave. I've had coworkers leave that I loved working with. I've had coworkers fired that I loved working with, kind of similar to what we're seeing here. Probably not as mutual as what we saw with Serge, but this happens in professional life. It's a matter of overcoming adversity and understanding that I guarantee you in that locker room, he's got plenty of guys that enjoy him. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I think people like him. I just don't understand. It's like we're trying to cater everything to him, and you just got to be a professional. I'm sorry. Like, even when I'm trying to figure out when do I play him, it's like, well, if I set him up this way, and then if I make sure I have these players here to support him, it's like, why am I trying to coddle him, Bucks? Like, just go out and, like, do your effing job. It's just what it is. Just getting frustrated, man.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Tell every new hire.
He's not a new hire. He's been here for 3 years. As it goes on, don't you think, like what we're Hitchin and Potch and Levy looking at here, like, as far as, I guess the mentality to it all, right? I mean,
A 5-minute YouTube video is what they were looking at.
They were just like,
No.
wow, this guy like torched Man City this one time in the Champions League. It's like, should we tap into like what his character is? Nah, let's just go off
let's
that.
not start questioning his character.
Not his character, but his drive.
There's
His
too many
drive.
dynamics here. I'm not trying to drag a Spurs player, and you weren't either.
Drive.
Drive.
I meant drive.
I think drive is important.
Not character. For all I know, he's a good guy. Just misunderstood. It's just it sucks.
I think he's
like
a good guy.
Yeah.
It's time now, though. If it doesn't happen this year, if he doesn't play a key contributor role for Spurs, it's done. I mean, you got to figure out an escape valve here.
He's unfortunately going to be a sunk cost. It's just what it is. You take a loss on it, can't win them all. It's just the way it goes. Chalk them up with Serge and Doherty, but it just sucks because everyone knows there's a player in there. And I said at the beginning, Bucks, it's a blessing that he's still in the squad because maybe it'll all figure itself out. Maybe he'll work himself way into the club and he'll make a meaningful contribution. Even if he makes a meaningful contribution in Papa John's Europa Conference League, like that's a meaningful contribution.
Sure.
That takes loads off Højbjerg and Skip from like having to play all those minutes and then go to the Prem and play minutes. So we need him here and he needs to step up. So hopefully that's what he does.
So last one here, Dexter. Have you guys considered doing a live watch along during games?
Yeah, I've had a couple failed ones.
Yeah, we have a couple failed ones out there that have been scrubbed from the internet. I'll say two things. First, no. We've considered it, but I don't think it will work out for a couple of different reasons. Number one, Shakes is a cord cutter. So Shakes has YouTube TV, which means Shakes' feed is a solid 45 seconds to a minute behind my cable stream. That's a huge issue if you're trying to collaborate while he's at his house 3 hours away and I'm at mine. So if we're together, potentially we could make it happen, but technology unfortunately rears its ugly head. Danny Shakes, pay for your cable subscription. We wouldn't have this problem. It really wouldn't work out, unfortunately. And number two, you don't want to see me during a Spurs match, Dexter. You just don't want to see it. Maybe you do, and maybe certain folks would get a kick out of it, but I turn into a deranged maniac during matches. I feel terrible for all my ghost neighbors in my ghost apartment. I'm insane during matches. First off, I can't sit. So I never sit during a match. I'll sit for the first 7 minutes and then I pace. So I just pace back and forth. And I have this cooler of beer that turns into 2 coolers of beer because then I think I have to get another cooler full of beer because the other one has bad vibes on it. And then all of a sudden I have like 6 coolers surrounding me. I don't know where to pull the beer out of because by that point it's so convoluted. I don't know where the good beer cooler, like the good vibes cooler is versus the bad vibes cooler. There's too many coolers of beer. Really though, I would love to make it happen for you guys. It's just technology, number one. And number two, there's a part of me that wants to keep that private. And because
that's your time with Spurs and your times only.
and let's mention, I don't wear shorts during the game.
You could just hit the pause button and then just start it when my cord cutting feed starts. That all works. I'll just say 1, 2, 3 now, press play.
Yeah, but then when yours cuts out, I just don't think it would work
cut out
well. All right, maybe we'll give it a shot here, Dexter, because bummer, you love to watch the shit show. It is that. It is an absolute mess.
Do you start doing stuff around the house too while drinking the beers and pacing? Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna clean these dishes. I'm gonna do this.
Nope. No. I stay glued to it. It's so weird when I watch matches because I'll find different spots to stand and then I'll think I'm fine there. And then 30 seconds later, it's like, no, this isn't working. And then I got to go somewhere else. So it's just me walking around for 2 hours.
Can I let you in on something, Bucks? I haven't told anyone this. So we put in a TV in the playroom, which used to be a dining room. We realized no one uses a dining room anymore. So now it's the kids' room. And in that TV, usually it has Cocomelon, Disney, all that. Man City, I watched the match there while playing with my daughter. Spurs won. Since then, I watched Wolves as well as Watford in the playroom. I'm 3-0 in the playroom. since
Do
the
you sit
TV is gone in.
cross-legged? Do
I
you sit
sit
cross-legged on the floor?
and I'm watching it on the floor. I mean, you've been to my house. We have a very nice outdoor patio with a TV. I could watch it out there. I have a nice living room with a pretty big TV. Could watch on that nice couch there. No, I sit on the floor amongst like micro machines and like stuffed animals, and I'm on the floor watching. And we're 3-0. Damn it, we got 9 points. Not changing. Not changing.
I can't wait until it deteriorates to the point where you get your own pacifier so you could throw that in when Tank Elliott throws hers in.
Yeah, she's throwing it in disgust. What?
Danny Passy.
Gotta pacify it.
Oh, Christ almighty. All right. Transfer deadline. Done and dusted. Rate Spurs transfer window 1 through 10. I'm going to run through who went out, who came in. So transfers out. Joe Hart, Eric Lamela, the hog that was promised, Toby, Serge, Foyth, I count him, and just a deadline deal to Celtic. Cameron Carter-Vickers is out as well. Players coming in, Christian Romero, Emerson Royale, Heel, the Gilster, Pierluigi Gallini, Pape Sarr, a youngster, 18 years old, big fella.
Went immediately back out on loan.
Don't mind that at all. He's 18.
None at all. Get him some PT. Watching Sark clips. He looks good, Bucks.
He looks kind of like a marauder.
Yeah.
Big fella.
He does. Commands the midfield.
Like
You're asking me to rate it out of 10?
Rate it out of 10.
I'm going to go 7. You could talk me in. I'm 2 drinks in. Maybe give me like 3 or 4 drinks. You could probably get me to an 8, for sure, 7.5. It's just a glaring miss to not have a backup striker or just attacking player in general. I know Spurs made a run at Traore. Never seemed like that was going to go down. I don't know why. Wolves did not have a great start, and he's one of their big attacking presences, and they got him under contract, so didn't feel like that one was going to happen. So attacking threat miss, and then maybe another midfielder. Those would have been the needs that if you filled it to get it a little bit higher for me. What was your rating?
I'm going to actually give it an 8.
Okay. So
I've seen on Twitter, but this is anything regarding Spurs on Twitter. It's just Twitter's the devil. Obviously, I know a lot of you out there probably wish we were more interactive on Twitter. I think we do a good job. We get great engagement. I just can't tweet all day so that folks can push me around. Like it gets ugly out there. And there's so many folks that are just shitting on this transfer window. Here's the deal. Lamela, Toby, Sissoko, Serge. Those are high-paid individuals. They're gone. And Serge being the most flattering move from him. You know what? God bless Serge. Coming back, playing 48 hours after the death of his brother. I mean, the guy played with his heart, and there's no doubt
in some important games for Spurs.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And, getting him off the books is so huge, but that was his call, right? He was told he wouldn't be involved. He ate it. I'm sure they came to some agreement. He got some sort of severance package there, of course. But to get him off the books, that's huge. He wasn't going to be involved this season. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers going out on loan, I don't mind it whatsoever. I'd rather just have that off the books, get rid of him. But Joe Hart, to get £1 million for him. Did you watch Joe Hart last year? Did anybody watch Joe Hart?
Did you watch him for Celtic last week?
No.
Yeah. Go check on the YouTube. Couple mistakes.
Didn't look great.
Yeah, no. The other thing too, and I don't know if I like this point or not, because it's like that journalistic take, which we are not, Bucks. There's something we are not. It's reporters or journalists for Tottenham Hotspur.
We're pundits.
We are pundits for sure, but the 2 biggest moves were what? Signing Son to the long-term contract and making sure Kane did not leave. And then on top of that, you get Skip back, which is pretty much a new player. That's all those things are probably more important than the incomings, right? But
with Delhi, Tanganga, and Skip stepping up to the first three matches,
new team,
that brand new team, yeah.
Yeah. So, because I know the point will be made. Well, Romero, Emerson, Heel, Galini, Sarr, none of those guys immediately start or make an impact. Now, Heel's going to be coming off the bench a lot. That's what I just learned quick. And then also, I think Emerson will push to be the starting right back eventually over Tanganga. I think Tanganga, when there's going to be a lot of possession on the other side, he just might make more sense defensively if you just know you're going to be hunkering down and you want the defensive presence, because Tanganga is really a center back by trade. But I got to see how Emerson looks, because it seems like this guy's an all-world right back that, Barcelona thought they were keeping for a long time, but they spend their money like a drunken sailor, so they don't understand what they're doing financially, and we just took advantage. It really kind of remains to be seen how Romero and Emerson really make an impact for the club this year, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, for you to say this was a really good signing period or not. Because otherwise, Bucks, the point you're making is, you got to get these guys off the books. I'm sorry, they're not all huge transfer dollar amounts in. What was fourth the most expensive one? Probably. And
no, Lamela, it's on record. The Lamela deal to bring Heel in.
Yeah, I guess, because, Spurs had to come up with cash with the swap.
But it was $85 million for Lamela plus the cash.
No, it was like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
If you go to Transfer Market,
I'm sure that's how
it says free transfer.
Yeah, it says him and a bag of chips. Even though he's like lighting it up right now, good for him.
Oh yeah, great to see that from Coco.
Love it, Stink Badger. But yeah, like you said, to get the wages off the sheet, that's what matters. To get them off the P&L.
Important business. Now, it would have been a 7 for me if I wouldn't have just looked at what we did based on our observations from the last 2 years. The big miss, the thing that prevents this from being a full 9 or a 10, you have to have at least one goal scorer. I don't care if it's an attacking midfielder presence. I don't care if it's a backup striker. That's a huge miss. But it's failed us for so long. Like last year, folks were saying, who the hell is Vinny? I don't know. Vinny came in and did a job in Europa League. Vinny was scoring goals for us. So bringing him in was huge. I would have loved to bring him back. It would have made me feel great. He's not a fantastic player, but he can do a job. So not getting that is what prevents him from being a 9 or a 10. Here's the deal. Our weaknesses the last 2 seasons, we didn't have the depth in numbers for our defensive back line. Now let's break down from left to right who's in play here. You have Reguilon, and then you have Davis right behind him. There you go. Left back settled. 2 players that can do a job. Totally different players, totally different circumstances for the matches they will be playing. Then you have center backs. Let's talk center backs right now. From our current roster construction, you have Joe Rodon, Eric Dyer, and then on the right side, you have Sanchez, and then you have Romero. Right there. Interchangeable. Figure out what works best. Right? So that's settled. Right back. You have Tanganga, you have Emerson.
You have Doherty.
Tanganga, well, yeah. Doherty's just floating around in outer space right now, but he's there. God bless him. He's there. We love you, Matt Doherty. At times. The solidification of that back line is going to go a long way this year because that was our number one weakness. I love the fact that at every position you have starters and backups. You have rotational pieces there. I think you have players that all offer something a bit different. Joe Rodon with his size, right? You have Tanganga, who's just so versatile. Davis, so versatile. You have options here. Back 3 options, back 4 options, different positions for different players. I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. And whether or not Romero and Emerson end up the starting pair, doesn't matter. I think we have enough. I think we finally have enough to maintain through injuries, through any sort of back steps that we might take. I come away from this being so impressed with how they did it, right? What did we say going into this? 2 biggest needs: center back, right back. Guess what? That's where we spent the most money, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Not yet on Romero, but it will come.
Do you think if
bringing in those 2 players that identified those needs, it's hard to identify and bring in those midfield pieces right now. Midfield was going like hotcakes throughout this transfer season. And I'm sorry, we don't have Champions League. It's going to be very hard to bring in that goal-scoring attacking midfielder to make a difference there. But I love Pape Sarr. Based on what I've seen, tons of talent there. Just like Heel, the Gilster, tons of talent there. Now, I'll pose this to you. Which of those 5 players in makes the largest impact or the most crucial impact for Spurs this season?
This season, I still believe it's going to be Romero. It's going to be him or Emerson. And I don't think that's, that should be pretty much 99% of everyone's answer. I think Heel will come off the bench and put in some meaningful minutes. He will play. But just, you're spending all this money on Romero. You're spending a good amount of money on Emerson. You're not going like 40 mil. You're going just mid-20s. But, that's a lot of money to put in a position. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Like 28 euro or 24 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I guess that's mid.
Yeah. It's more middle.
Considering it's between 4 and 6.
I would say middle. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a specialty position, and that's what they brought him in for. So it very well could be Emerson, but I would like to hope that Romero will be the quarterback of the back line of the future Bucks. Hopefully he can plug and play with any of the other center backs, whether it's Roden, Dave, or Dyer. I'm hoping for it to be Cootie. But if it's Emerson, I'm not going to be upset either. That's for certain. Because
this one's going to get you off kilter, though.
What are you going to say?
I got Brian Hill.
Do you? I mean, that'd be number 3. I mean, Galini's not starting over Hugo, so I get it.
I think that in due time, this is a guy who's not afraid to put a ball in net. He likes to blast them.
The way he
all
looked up,
know how I feel.
The way he made that run, looked up, spotted Kane, made the right pass in that Ferrer match, didn't look like an 18-year-old. I mean, granted, it's against lesser competition, but
isn't he 20?
Is he 20, 18? I don't even know.
I believe he's 20 years old.
Sure.
But yeah, it did not look like an 18-year-old for the record there, Dan.
Spurs got so young, by the way, dropping all the 30-year-olds. Sissoko, Hart, Lamella, Toby.
Okay, here's the real question. If Heel can score 6 total goals this season, I think he's a rousing success.
Thing is, Bucks, Vinicius 10 goals for Spurs. Yeah, Heel just turned 20, so you're right.
Bale had what, 15?
10,
14?
Yeah, 15, 14. I mean, it's a lot of goals to make up that just disappeared.
Yeah, but if they're not scoring against you.
True, but still got to score.
I'll give a shout out to the extra inch and Barty. Barty keeps mentioning his dream of 29 1-0 victories is enough to win the title.
Really, it's just Steve's got to step up.
He's been cracking me up. He's been cracking me up this season with that. But yeah, his dream is 29 wins, 1-0.
Steve just needs to step up. Him and Lucas.
Steve and Lucas must step up. I want to see Lucas getting goal scoring for him. They'll step up. Shakes, you got to believe this shit. All right, here's the crucial question, though. In 3 years' time, which of those 5 players makes the biggest impact at Spurs?
My hope is it's Romero. Because at that point, we got a mid-20s going into his late. I don't know. What do you call it? If he's 27 bucks, is that mid or late? Or is it mid to late?
It's mid.
Okay. So yeah, still in his mid-20s, holding it down in the midfield or in the center back pairing, and just erases all mistakes, but at the same time can also act as that holding midfielder that sprays the ball around or can join the rush. I mean, if Romero is all he's cracked up to be, he would be the most impactful. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with Pape Sarr.
3 years from now? So he's 21?
Yep.
That's not
I
his
think he comes
mid-20s.
in
That's still his young
guns
20s.
blazing. Guns blazing.
Thought you were gonna
And
say
clearly I've
Emerson.
only watched YouTube compilations. I
Give me
hope to
6
watch
years.
some Mets matches.
6 years, Pape Sarr.
All right, I'll go with Heel again. I've really liked what
You
I've
love
seen
the
from Brian
Gilster.
Hill. I think Gilster, he's quickly becoming like my secondary under my chicken wing guy.
It says 5'9". Would you go over under that on his
He
sheet?
looks taller than 5'9".
Wow, really?
You think
I
he
don't
looks
know.
shorter?
When he went up and hugged Kane, there was a height discrepancy, Bucks.
All of a sudden, you're just the master of the heights.
He's a speed demon. I love him. Don't get me wrong. I'm all in on the heel daddy flex.
So you had him at a 7. I have him at an 8. I can't complain right now, aside from the lack of a goal scoring threat. But I understand, given the situation, it's hard to bring in goal scorers when you're not playing in Europa, let alone Champions League. So,
Yeah,
it's understandable. And
out.
hopefully, if we have business to do, we can get it done in January. Last thing here before we wrap, Ian, going for Sarr out of Watford, wouldn't mind that. Totally agree. Would not mind bringing in him. I just think the price tag is going to be way too high to bring him from Watford to Spurs.
You would think winter window, not a lot of business gets done in the January window, but probably like a backup striker might be around, right? Wouldn't you think like that would be like one of the more easier signings?
Hopefully Troy Deeney hates Birmingham City.
Right. Just someone's at a place, they're disgruntled, or the team's lost, or, if someone else came ahead of them, and it's just one striker. It's all we need. Just someone out there.
How does Troy Deeney go to Birmingham City on a free?
No idea.
Troy Deeney would be a perfect Kane backup. Just an absolute punk menace.
Did we have like homegrown limits though, or certain limits on? Because Spurs just had to buy out Serge.
Troy Deeney is English, man.
Would that still count? I don't even know how that part works.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Maybe not. I don't know, man. There's a lot that we don't know.
A lot of technical shit.
If you've listened to us now for the last 87 minutes, I'm sure you gathered something. Shakes, it was a good show. Hey, YouTube, you guys were awesome tonight. So many great comments from y'all. I wish we could highlight them all. It's great to have Danny Shakes back from Belize, aka the COVID nightmare scare of the last week and a half.
We're back, baby.
We're totally back. And we'll be joining you next week.
I'm ordering Papa John's tomorrow, Bucks. I'm doing it.
You better have all of Thursday completely wiped from your calendar.
That's true. Actually, I have a busy Thursday. That's where I'm allowed back into the real world.
So I think what you should do is postpone that for Thursday night.
Maybe it's Friday night.
If you have a little leaner
pizza party Friday.
Yeah. Pizza pie Friday.
Pizza pie Friday.
That's that's my tradition, but I've sworn off the pizza for the time being.
Got to order something for the U.S. men's team.
Yeah. I'll tell you this though. I'm recently, I hadn't had cereal shakes. And mind you need a little bit of context here. I was an avid cereal once a day guy for the better part of my life. I would say 29 years.
What was your go-to cereal
on this earth? Go-to cereal?
Your GTC, yeah.
Oh, well, growing up, you can't have all the shit that you can buy as an adult. Honey Bunches of Oats with almonds was always the number one. But my number one of all time, which you can no longer find, I believe they stopped making it, or at least I can no longer find it. Crunchy Nut.
Wow.
Kellogg's Crunchy Nut.
I was going to say, let's do a quick 3-team cereal draft right now. My first pick would be Cinnamon Toast Crunch for kids.
I don't know what it is. I used to love it, and I still will enjoy it, but it's a one bowl and I'm done type of thing. Like I'm not going to crave that the next day.
You don't like how the milk gets after too, with all like the cinnamon and sugar in it?
No, if I had to go with a 1-1 right now, it's Golden Grams.
Well, I'm saying as kids.
Well, I'm saying as a full-grown boy.
I'm still a child eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm not eating it right now, Bucks.
Yes, you are.
I got like 400 calories. There's probably so much sugar on it.
Pull the curtain back. Pull the curtain back. Tell us what you're eating.
Probably Special K with strawberries.
I do love special. Wait a second.
It's
You
good.
dogged me for that before. Did
I
I
haven't.
pull you in on that?
No, I've been eating that forever. If I dogged
That's
you,
a great cereal.
It was just a self-reflection moment where I was trying to project onto you, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. We both do that well to each other.
Were you Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops? Or you can pick your draft. You want to still do the draft?
No, I didn't like either. Neither would have been my choice as a kid. No. I'd say Corn Pops are up there. Big Corn Pops guy.
That's just like starch and corn. That's like,
but they have to be fresh. If you get stale Corn Pops, it's going to be a bad time.
Like, I don't know how other countries have like lobbyist industries, but in the United States, I'd say the corn and sugar lobbying industries are quite large, and they got together and made sure Corn Pops would be like written into the U.S. Constitution to always be around.
Oh, 100%.
Corn Pops are probably the worst thing in the world for you, and they're here to stay because it's corn and sugar.
Yeah. And then, you know what? I'm going to stick with Honey Bunches of Oats. If I could find Crunchy Nut, it would be my one overall. Crunchy Nut
Lucky Charms?
Is fantastic. No, not a Lucky
Cocoa
Charms.
Pebbles?
I have too many fake teeth. I guess where I was trying to go with this ramble was that this morning, as I had a bowl of Golden Grams after being retired from cereal for the better part of 4 years. I poured a fat bowl of Golden Grams and I was housing it. I was in heaven this morning. I went to Publix first thing this morning and I was crushing these Golden Grams. And folks, I am full of fake implants and fake bridges. I'm just full of fake teeth. I was born without 7 adult teeth. So all my kids' teeth fell out. And then my adult teeth just never grew in. So it was a scramble fest all through high school for me.
Did you know that, like, going in? Did they do x-rays and they're like, hey, your teeth aren't there?
They all knew. Yeah, they're like,
so it's just...
The doctor took one look at me, shook his head. He put his hand on my knee and said, son, you ain't never getting laid with that mouth. And at this point, I was 8 years old. I had no idea how to react to that. But it was sage wisdom from that doc. and no
What's
shit,
7 teeth? Like we're talking like more in the front?
Yeah, so the one right next to my front teeth,
front teeth
never grew in. These two just beyond the canine never came in. So those are both implants. This is an implant in the front, but you can't get implants until you're 16. So it was a scramble because your bone structure has to be fully matured.
So what did you do for like 8 years?
Shakes, my entire middle and high school up until 16, 17, it was a scramble drill to figure out how I could ever get laid without having to take my retainer that had fake teeth. So I had a retainer that had all the different fake teeth in there that extended out from like the roof of my mouth, right? So
so it basically was like missing puzzle pieces that
you know how it works, Shakes. So 7th grade, you eat lunch with your boys, but then something happens when you go to 8th grade. You're 14, 15 years old, and you start integrating with the ladies at your lunch table, right? You're getting along with the ladies. You're starting to feel different types of ways. So in 7th grade, it was easy for me to just take my retainer out, put it in my stupid retainer box, and then just go to town on my lunch without worrying about the retainer breaking. All throughout 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, before I could get my implants in, I legitimately would break my retainer at least once every 2 months. And that moment where I felt it break because I just took the wrong bite, the anxiety that spread through me, and I think it's made me the man I am today, because I would have to just poke it back into place and hope it stayed as I talked throughout the day. So you would have a hanging tooth that was just kind of like dangling, but you just try to wedge it deeply within, like against the retainer. And that was my childhood. I mean, it made me the man I am. Anyways, so I'm eating my Golden Grams this morning, and my oldest implant, I actually got this one on the bottom because my jaw, obviously, look at this bone structure. My jaw was fully matured, and they were able to put it in when I was 14. So I always had this one. I've had this for 20 years. I'm eating these Golden Grams this morning, and the thing just shoots up, and I'm still mowing down on this Golden Grams, just going insane on them. And I just almost chewed through and swallowed the actual crown.
Tooth was just like rolled up into the Golden Gram.
Yeah. So yeah. And the tooth was rolled up in the Golden Grams, and I just felt it, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then I felt the 2 damn spires coming out of from my gums. And I just figured, man, I got to do something about this. So I called up the doc. Got a nice freebie today. So
you take your retainer out, and it would be like 5 teeth came out with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Like plugging in puzzle pieces.
Yes. So it was a rough life, but I think that's part of why I'm Spurs now. I like to struggle.
For sure. I think definitely that's led you to Spurs.
Obviously, I didn't choose to not have these teeth, and I was, technology wasn't where it is currently. So things were rough, man.
I just like the doctor or dentist coming in. It's like, well, he's missing 7 adult teeth. Like, just the news isn't great, Mrs. Buck.
It wasn't good. All right. That was story time with Buck. Thanks you all for tuning in.
And his fake ass mouth.
Next week, follow us on Twitter at TTPodCoys if you don't, so you can be updated on when we will be going live for our Google Maps deep dive for the Papa John's Europa Conference League. Spurs top of the table. Arsenal on bottom. Danny Shakes signed the people off.
Let's go. International break. Transfer window behind us. And come on, you Spurs.
COYS, get it done. Beat the adversity that stares you in the face as an 8-year-old boy, knowing you would never have 7 adult teeth grow in. How will you triumph today?
COYS.